Never in the history of the United States of America have its citizens and politicians faced what may be its inevitable destruction. The average lifespan of an empire is only 250 years, and the United States was founded 246 years ago. Does this mean the U.S. will see her demise in the next 4 years? Due to its status as a republic, some may argue the USA is not an empire. Maybe there's hope that the USA will not succumb to the social, economic, and political challenges she faces today. But what if the United States of America is an empire? And what if she is dying just like empires died before her? Rome was a republic controlled by a senate, but from 400 BC to 27 BC it was very much conquering territory as a proper historical empire. In 27 BC, Caesar Augustus formally declared Rome to be an empire. After 1871, the French were proudly republican with an elected president and representatives but still built an impressive colonial empire by 1914. Everyone understood France was an empire but also a republic at the same time. Republics operating as empires have existed for over 2,000 years. The USA is an example of one such empire, which many believe started in either 1818 or 1898. But what if 1776 was the birth of the American Empire? On February 2, 1898, following the Mexican-American War, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo added an additional 525,000 square miles to United States territory, including the land that makes up all or parts of present-day Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. History tells us that when an empire expands, the land it takes from vanquished nations becomes central to that empire. How vital are California, Texas, and Nevada to the American image? Everyone in the world knows of Las Vegas, Hollywood, and Dallas. Certainly, the land taken from Mexico became a symbol of the American Empire. Following the U.S. defeat of Spain, the 1898 Treaty of Paris ceded ownership of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippine Islands from Spain to the United States and granted the United States temporary control of Cuba. Still not convinced the U.S. is an empire? The concept of the American Empire came from Thomas Jefferson, who believed the Constitution of the United States was the perfect foundation on which an extensive empire could be built. Alexander Hamilton thought America was the most interesting empire in the world. The United States is still an empire today, only rebranded as a superpower to avoid the negative connotations of words like imperialism and empire. The Wolfowitz Doctrine of 1992 and the Bush Doctrine both tend to uphold and strengthen the resolve of the United States as a world superpower, intent on preemptive strikes, unilateralism, attacks on other countries, and democratic regime change. Just as the Roman, Russian, and Persian empires, the United States controls land populated with many races, ethnicities, and unique cultures. America controls the behaviors of most nations around the world through sanctions, tariffs, and military dominance. Alexander Hamilton once stated, "The fabric of American empire ought to rest on the solid basis of the consent of the people." The USA has over 750 foreign military bases in over 80 countries and 12 supercarrier strike groups with over 170,000 U.S. troops stationed abroad. America wages countless and endless wars around the globe. The U.S. military can be found in nearly 150 of the world's 193 countries, or 77% of the entire world. No other military in history has occupied more space than the United States of America. Noam Chomsky once said, "Suppose that China established military bases in Colombia, to carry out chemical warfare in Kentucky and North Carolina to destroy this legal crop, tobacco, that is killing huge numbers of Chinese." Noam Chomsky also stated, "If something is right or wrong for us, it's right or wrong for others." It follows that if it's wrong for Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, and a long list of others to bomb Washington and New York, then it's wrong for Rumsfeld to bomb Afghanistan, on much flimsier pretexts, and he should be brought before war crimes trials. Today, the U.S. has 5 permanently inhabited territories: Guam, American Samoa, the Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The U.S. also claims Midway Atoll, Palmyra Atoll, Baker Island, Howland Island, Jarvis Island, Johnston Atoll, Kingman Reef, Wake Island, and Navassa Island. Mark Twain was quoted as saying, "America cannot have an empire abroad and a republic at home." Ivo Dulder and James Lindsay wrote, "Like it or not, the power and reach of the United States have already turned it into an empire. Indeed, it has been one in some form or another for more than 100 years, ever since the United States triumphed in the Spanish-American War, and American troops occupied Cuba, Puerto Rico and the Philippines." If the USA is indeed an empire, when will she collapse? Will it be in your lifetime, or the lifetime of your children? We know it will happen, but when? Howard Zinn stated, "The Roman Empire came to an end, but the Roman people didn't, so I see the American Empire coming to an end just as other empires have come to an end." Noted historian Alfred McCoy wrote, "The American century so triumphantly at the start of World War II, may already be tattered and fading by 2025 and, except for finger-pointing, could be over by 2030. A collapse doesn't mean the extinction of the United States or her people, but it will, at the very least, demote her from her position as a world superpower." High inflation and high debt could cause foreign creditors to dump the US dollar and trigger a collapse. As of March 2022, the International Monetary Fund or IMF approved 4 other reserve currencies: the euro, British pound sterling, Japanese yen, and Chinese yuan. The USA is over $30 trillion in debt. As more money is printed, trust and faith in the American dollar is eroded and purchasing power is affected. Over 80% of surveyed adults said they think the U.S. economy is likely to experience a recession in 2022. The annual U.S. inflation rate rose from 1.4 in 2020 to a whopping 8.3 in the year 2022. Competition in reserve currency allows other nations an alternative if U.S. policymakers lead the American dollar down a destructive path. The United States' global domination will not last indefinitely. This has not been the case for any nation in the past and it won't be true for any nation in the future. Will a new civil war be the proverbial straw that breaks America's back? Or will the United States' quest to be the world's peacemaker prove to be its undoing? The USA spends over $770 billion to position troops and bases around the world while its cities are plagued with homelessness, crime and despair. The American political system has become so overwhelmed with fear and anger that basic tasks are becoming more impossible to complete. Death of an empire comes slowly and looks more like a mounting series of minor, ambiguous and seemingly unimportant failures. Collapse takes time and may even go unnoticed to the untrained eye. It took over 15 years for the British Empire to fall and 11 years for the Ottomans. How long will it take for the United States to fall? America is divided with a political system that poorly represents its people, creating distrust which may eventually lead to revolt. The gap between the rich and poor is increasing and the middle class is disappearing. The poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. U.S. students continue to rank well below students from other countries in math and science. One report from 2020 by the Global Citizens for Human Rights doesn't even include the United States in its top 10 best educational systems. The USA ranks 34th among nations in life expectancy. The public distrusts the election process and 82 million Americans don't even vote. Violent protests. Defunding police. Pandemic restrictions. Supply chain disruptions. Inflation. Recession. Homelessness. Russian aggression. A failing healthcare system. Immigration. The debate on whether the USA qualifies as an empire will continue. However, she may already be in a state of decline that she can't recover from, but there's still time to save yourself and your family. It's not too late to start preparing today. Invest wisely in precious metals and barter items. Stock up on non-perishable foods and supplies. Have an action plan in place to defend your home and land. And most importantly, don't count on the government or your neighbors to support or protect you. Thank you for watching.